So all of you have studied the first two chapters, the poem Casabianca and the short story The Hell. Now we are going to start with a new story, The False Gems. It has been written by a French writer, Guy de Maupassant. All right, you here is silent, it's a French name. So it is a short story with a twisted ending. All right. What we expect, we get a very ironical ending to this story. So I want people to read and then I will explain you. All right. So anybody who wants to read this introduction given in green at the top. Ananya. Yes, you start reading.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
The False Gems is a short story by French writer Guy de
Maupassant.
Maupassant.
Okay. Yes.
First published in 1883. The story is about a man of modest means who loves his beautiful wife. His
And his
wife
wife.
has a
Yes.
and his wife has a weakness for two things, the theatre and false jewelry. It is
Yes.
known for its twist ending, which has a
Which was a hallmark.
hallmark of Mospan's style. The
Maupassant
ir-
style. All right.
the ironical twist for its twist ending. The ironical twist the story is that in the end, the man discovers that the gems are not really false at but that is his wife
But
is.
that his wife is. All right. So what this introduction is telling us that this story is about a man of modest means. So modest here means that his financial position is not very good. All right. He has little means to survive. Oh, and he loves his beautiful wife a lot. So he has a beautiful wife, and she is very beautiful and virtuous, but she has a weakness for two things. The theater means going to watch the dramas. All right. And false jewelry. So she likes to wear imitation jewelry, not the real one, but the imitation one, because we are already seeing that the man has modest means. So with modest means, he cannot buy real jewelry. So his wife loves to wear this false jewelry. Then it is saying that it is known for its twist ending. So it means that what we are reading and expecting the entire time, in the end, we get a very twisted ending, which we were not expecting. And this is the hallmark of Maupassant's style. So hallmark means the characteristic, the style, the feature of his writing is such that he always tries to give a twisted ending to his stories. All right. So they are saying that what is that ironical twist? It is that in the end, the man is discovering that the gems which he really thought to be false were actually true, but the wife whom he thought to be very virtuous and loyal, turned out to be that his wife was actually false. All right. So now we will start with the text of the story. So I want Brajendra Vikram Singh to read.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, Monsieur Lantin had met the young girl.
Listen. R is silent over here. This is again a French word, and you can see it means sir for in French. All right. It is pronounced as monsieur. Okay. Go ahead.
Monsieur Lantin had met the young girl at a reception at the house of the second head of his department and had fallen head over heels in love with her. She
Yes.
was the daughter of a tax collector who had been dead several years. She and her mother came. She and her mother came to live in Paris, where the latter, who came the
Who made the
acquaintance
acquaintance?
acquaintance of some of the families in her neighborhood, hoped to find a husband for her daughter. They
Okay,
had
okay. Stop.
lived.
Stop there. Stop there. So now it is saying that Monsieur Latin had met a young girl at the reception. So reception is a formal party. So it is an official party which has been given by the head of his second head of his department at his residence. All right. And here Lanton has seen this girl and he had fallen head over heels in love with her. So head over heels here means madly in love. It is a phrase which means that he's now, after seeing her, he has fallen madly in love with her. And the detailing is that she is the daughter of a tax collector who is now dead for several years. All right. She and her mother have come to live in Paris. All right. And her mother has now made acquaintance. Acquaintance means that to know each other, to be a bit familiar with one another. So her mother has now made acquaintance with some of the families living there in the neighborhood. And now she is trying to find a husband for her daughter. Okay, I am Shukla. Now you start to read from where Brajendra left.
They had very moderate means and were honorable
Please read a bit
gentlemen.
loudly, I am.
The young girl was a perfect type of the virtuous woman in whose hands every sensible young man dreams of one day entrusting his happiness. Her simply beauty had the
Simple
charm
beauty.
of angelic modesty, simple mm, so- of angelic modesty and the imperceptible
Imperceptible. Yes.
smile which constantly hovered about her lips seemed to be the reflection of a pure and lovely soul. Her praises resounded on every side. People never tired of repeating, "Happy the man who wins her love. He could not find a better wife."
Okay, stop. So now the writer is describing that describing the young girl, that how she was. All right. So he is saying that she was a perfect type of virtuous woman. So virtuous here means of being a very good charactered woman. All right. She has a very good character and in whose hands every sensible young man. So every young man would dream that I want to marry such a woman. She was so virtuous. All right. Entrusting his happiness means marrying her. And then the writer is talking about her simple beauty, which had the characteristic of angelic modesty. Angelic is something very innocent, pure, and modest means someone who is very humble, down to earth person. So she had some angelic modesty and she had simple beauty, and she also had an imperceptible smile. Imperceptible is something which is very subtle, very tough to very tough to catch, something like that. So very slight smile she had, and it was constantly hovering. Hovering means something which remains in the air. So constant hovering smile was there on her lips constantly. So she was always looking smiling, beautiful, angelic, and modest. All right. And all these things showed of the reflection. They were such a reflection that how pure and lovely her soul was. So naturally the people started praising her. Her praises resounded. Resounded means echo. So everywhere there were praises of her, that she is so lovely, she is so angelic, she is so virtuous. So all her praises were resounding in the neighborhood, and people were never tired. And they said that happy the man who wins her. So they were saying that anybody who marries her will be very happy, and he cannot find a better wife than her. So she would be the best wife. That was their idea. So now we will move ahead. Sure, Jaswal?
Monsieur Latin, then chief clerk in the Department of the Interior, enjoy a snug little salary of
Salary,
3,500
salary.
of 3,500 francs, and he proposed to this model young girl and was accepted. He was
Yes.
unspeakably happy with her. She governed his household with such clever economy that they
Economy,
seemed
yes.
to live in luxury. She lavished the most
Yes.
delicate attentions
Delicate attentions. Yes.
on her husband, and so great was her charm that 6 years after their marriage, Monsieur Latin discovered that he loved his wife even more than during the first days of their honeymoon.
Okay, stop. So now they are telling that Monsieur Latin, he was the chief clerk. All right. You know what is a clerk? He was not an officer. He was doing clerical work in the Department of Interior. And snug little here means that it was his financial means were tight. He did not had a lot to earn, but he was living a comfortable life. All right. And his salary was 3,500 francs. And he proposed when he saw and he was head over heels for her, madly in love with her. So he proposed to marry this model young girl. So model here means very desired girl. All right, everybody wanted to marry her. So he proposed to this girl and his proposal was accepted. And he was married. So after marriage, what happened? He was unspeakably happy, meaning thereby that he was so happy that he could not express it in words. All right. She governed his household with such clever economy. So they are saying that he used to give the money to her, whatever he earned, and she managed the finances of running the household so well that they seemed to live in luxury. So for living in luxury, you need to have a lot of money, but we know that he had modest means. But what Mr. Langton thought, that my wife is governing the household with such clever finances and economy that we are able to live in luxury. Then she lavished the most delicate attentions on her husband. So they are saying that she spent very careful attention. She took care of little needs that he had, little details of what he wants, what are his needs. So she was lavishing delicate attentions on her husband, and so great was her charm that after 6 years of their marriage, so much means 6 years have passed after the marriage, but Langton was still in great love with his wife, as if they were on a honeymoon, because she was giving very delicate attention to his needs, and she was running the household very skillfully. And this is what every man desires. Now, who will read? Shreya Singh, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He found fault. He found fault with
Yes.
only.
Two
He
of her
found
taste.
fault with only two of her taste: her
Yes.
love for the theater and her taste for imitation jewelry. Her friends,
Yes.
the wives of some petty officials, frequently procured for her a box
Procured.
at the theater. Procured for her a box at the theater, often often for the first representations of the new plays, and her husband was obliged to accompany
Obliged.
her obliged to accompany her whether he wished it or not to these entertainments, which bored him after this day's work at the office.
Okay, stop it. So now they are saying that Mr. Langton, though loved his wife a lot, but he did not like two of her qualities: her love for theater and her taste for imitation jewelry, which is not real. Then it is being said that her friends, the wife of the other officials, they frequently procured for her. So procured means obtained, gained. So they reserved a box for her at the theater. For example, when we go to the movies, we reserve seats for ourselves. So her friends reserved boxes for her at the theater so that she could watch the first representations of the new play. So every new play that was being performed, she would watch the first representations of those plays. For example, the people who are very fond of movies, they want to watch the first show of the movies. So it is similar to that the first representation of the plays, every new play that was being held, she wanted to watch it. And her husband,
okay. Red wali.
Yes. And her husband was obliged to accompany her. So her husband, obliged means it was sort of mandatory for her, because she persuaded him so much that please come, that he felt obliged that I have to accompany her to the show, which he did not wish, because after an entire day of work, he felt tired and bored that he had to go watching all these plays and entertainment shows. All right. Now, Rishik Singh, read further.
After a time, Monsieur Latin begged
It's Monsieur.
Monsieur Latin begged his wife to request some lady of her acquaintance acquaintance to
Yes.
accompany her and to bring her home after the theater. She opposed this arrangement at first, but after much persuasion finally agreed, to the delight of her husband. Now with her love of the theater came also the desire for ornaments. Her customs remained as before simple. Costumes remained as before simple, in good taste and always modest, but she soon began to adorn her ears with huge rhinestones,
Yes.
which glittered and sparkled like real diamonds. Around her neck she wore strings of false pearls, on her arms bracelets of imitation gold, and combs set with glass jewels. Her
Yes.
husband frequently remonstrated with her, saying, "My dear, as you cannot afford to buy real jewelry, you ought to appear adorned with your beauty and modesty alone, which are the rarest ornaments of a woman."
Stop.
But she would smile.
Stop. So Langton was very depressed that he has to go to watch all these shows.
I have been telling you continuously to switch on your video, or I'll send you to the waiting room. Immediately switch on your video. And you're not going to switch it off.
Please switch on your video. So yes. After a time, Langton begged his wife, meaning he requested her a lot, that please take some lady of your acquaintance. Acquaintance means familiarity. Someone you are familiar with, or someone who is your friend. Please take her to, please accompany her, and you go with her to all these entertainment shows, and to bring her home after the theater, and then you return home with her. At first, she opposed this arrangement. So she said that, no, you should accompany me. But after that, after much persuasion, meaning that when Lantern kept on encouraging her to go with her friends, then she finally agreed to the delight of her husband. So delight means her husband naturally became happy because that's what he wanted. He didn't want to accompany her to all these shows after days of hard work. Now, with her love for theater came also the desire for ornaments. So now they are talking about her love for imitation jewelry. So they are saying that her costumes remained as before. So her clothes remained the same, simple, in good taste, and are always modest. But she soon began to adorn her ears with huge rhinestones. So rhinestones are imitations of diamond. So diamond earrings she was wearing made of rhinestones, which is a false gem, imitating diamond, and sparkled like real diamonds. Then around her neck, she wore strings of false pearls. On her arms, bracelet of imitation gold. So she was also wearing bracelets of imitation gold. And then on and comb sets with glass jewels. So on her head also she was wearing jewelry, a tiara, which was again false imitation jewelry. So her husband frequently remonstrated. So remonstrated here means argue angrily. All right. So he always used to say that, my dear, as you cannot afford to buy real jewelry because they had modest means, you ought to appear adorned. To adorn means to make someone beautiful, to beautify yourself. So he said that you ought to appear adorned with your beauty. You have such good natural beauty and you have so much modesty that you can look beautiful with your beauty and modesty alone. And these are very rare ornaments of a woman. All right, because jewels you can always buy, but virtue and modesty are innate qualities of a person which are rare. So he said that if you want to adorn yourself, then you adorn yourself with beauty and modesty. Now, Om Kesarwani, you want to read? Om Kesarwani, do you want to read? Okay. Tanisha Patel.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Go ahead.
My dear, as you cannot afford to buy real jewelry, you are thought to appear adorned.
You ought to buy. You ought to appear adorned.
You ought with your beauty and modesty alone, which are the rare ornaments of a woman. But she would smile sweetly and say, what can I do? I am so fond of jewelry. It is my only weakness. We cannot change our nature. Sometimes on an evening, when they were enjoying a tea by
Okay.
fireside,
It's called tete-a-tete. All right.
tete-a-tete
Yes.
by a fireside, could place on the tea table the mock leather box containing the thrush, as Monsieur Latin called
Monsieur
it.
Latin
She
called it. Yes.
called it. She could examine the false gems with a passionate attention, as thought they imparted
Imparted.
some deep and secret enjoy.
Secret
She
joy. All right.
often
You can stop here. So when her husband told her that please adorn yourself only with your beauty and modesty alone, she would smile and say, what can I do? I am so fond of jewelry. So she is saying that I like jewelry so much and this is my only weakness. And then she says that we cannot change our nature. So she is trying to say that please don't try to change my nature. I am so fond of jewelry and this is my only weakness. So please let me wear this imitation jewelry. All right. Then it is being said that sometimes on evenings when they are enjoying tete-a-tete, means a casual meeting or conversation, when they are sitting, husband and wife sitting by the fireside, she would place on the table a Moroccan leather box. So it is a flexible leather box containing trash. So now Mr. Langton used to call her fake jewelry, imitation jewelry, to be trash. All right. But she would open the box and she would examine the false gems with a deep passion. All right, a deep felt emotion. And she would give too much attention to them as though they imparted some deep and secret joy. That while seeing it, she would feel a very deep and secret joy. Okay. Angel, you want to read? Please start reading from She Often Persisted.
She often persisted in passing a necklace around her husband's neck and laughing
Heartily,
Heartily.
yes, laughing heartily.
would Jam exclaim, "How funny you look!" Then she would throw herself into his arms affectionately. One
Yes,
evening in
affectionate.
winter, she had been to the opera and returned
Opera,
home,
yes.
chills through and through. The next morning she coughed, and 8 days later she died of inflammation of lungs.
Okay, okay.
Monetiel
Stop. So what happened in those tete-a-tete meetings is that she used to joke by putting her necklace around her husband's neck, and she would laugh heartily and say, "How funny you look." So this is all the funny things that she would do with her husband. And then she would hug him affectionately. But what happened in one evening in winter season, that she went to the opera, again she went to the theater as she liked. And when she returned, she had got a cold infection. She was chilled through and through. And the next morning, she started coughing a lot. And 8 days later, what happened? That she died of inflammation in lungs. So it was a lung infection and it resulted in her death. So Muhammad Ali, you want to read?
Yes, sir. Monaria Lanterns disappear was Muspew.
Yes.
Lanterns disappear.
Despair,
Lanterns
yes.
disappear was so great that his
That his hair became white.
That his hair remembered her smile, her voice, every charm of his dead wife. Time did not assuage his grief, often during office hours while his colleagues discussing the topics of the day, his eyes would suddenly fill with tears, and he would vent to his grief.
He would give vent to his grief.
Sobs.
Heart-rending sobs.
Heart-rending sobs. He was wont to seclude himself daily and think her who had been his treasure, the joy of his existence.
Okay, stop. So now they are describing the condition of Mr. Langton after the death of his wife. Okay. So they are saying that his despair was so great that his hair became white in 1 month. So white in 1 month means it turned gray, because he felt so much tension that he started feeling old. All right. and he wept unceasingly. Unceasingly means non-stop, continuously. So he kept crying, his heart broken. His heart was also broken as he kept on remembering her beautiful smile, her voice, every charm of his dead wife. He used to remember and he used to cry continuously. Then they are saying that as time was passing by, even time did not calm down his pain that he was feeling. In his office hours also, while his colleagues were busy, because in the office everyone is busy discussing his daily topics, doing their own things. So his colleagues are all busy, but even in those times, suddenly his eyes would fill with tears because he is still remembering his dead wife, and he would give vent to his grief with heart-rending sobs. So there was so much sadness in his cries, and he would start crying in the office itself. And he was accustomed, he had made a habit of seclusion. Seclusion means to isolate oneself. So he would seclude himself daily in a corner, and he would think about his wife, who was the treasure, his joy of his existence. All right. So, Pranjal Yadav, you want to read?
Yes.
Okay, start.
But life soon became a struggle. His income, which in the hand of his wife covered all household expenses, was no longer sufficient for his own immediate want, and he wondered how she could have managed to buy such excellent wine and rare delicacies, which he could no longer procure
Procure.
with
Yes.
his modest resources. He
Incurred.
and incurred some debts
Yes.
and was soon reduced to absolute poverty. One
Yes.
morning, finding himself with a cent in his pocket, he resolved to sell something, and immediately the thought occurred to him of disposing of his wife's false gems, for he cherished in his heart a sort of rancor against these deceptions,
Yes.
which had always irritated him in the past. The very sight of them spoiled somewhat the memory of his lost darling. He turned them over some time before finally deciding to sell the heavy necklace which he seemed to prefer, and which he thought ought to be worth about 6 or 7 francs, for it was of very fine workmanship, though only
Work,
imitation.
workmanship. All right. Yes.
Yes.
Though only imitation. All right. Stop now. So now they are saying that life soon became a struggle for Mr. Langton. Why it became a struggle? Because his income, which in the hands of his wife covered household expenses, earlier it has already been told that she was managing the finances of the household very well, right? So now when he had to manage all by himself the finances of the household, so life soon became a struggle for him, because he was not able to buy his immediate demands, means his instant wants which he needed for daily use. It was his earning was not sufficient even for that. And now he started wondering that how my wife was able to buy such excellent wine. So naturally, excellent wine would have cost a lot. So now he was thinking that how she was able to buy such excellent wine, then these expensive food, which now he is no longer being able to procure. Procure means obtain, because now he is with the same salary, he is not being able to obtain all these things because his resources are modest. So he is wondering how his wife was able to manage all that. Then further details are that he incurred some debts. So he fell into debts also, and soon was reduced to absolute poverty. So he started living in poverty. He became very poor. One morning, finding himself without a cent in his pocket. So now he was not having anything in his pocket. So he resolved to sell something. So now what is going to sell? And immediately the thought occurred to him of disposing his wife's false gems. So he thought that my wife is having so much of imitation jewelry. Why not I sell all those things to earn some money and make myself free from the debts also? All right. So he thought of disposing his wife's false gems, for he also hated those. So he thought that this is the better way. I will get rid of the imitation jewelry also, and I will also get some money in return as well. So the very sight of them, so when he looked at them, spoiled somewhat the memory of his lovely darling. So when he looked at them, so he realized that how he used to hate all these imitation jewelry at that time also when his wife was alive, and she used to love them a lot. So this spoiled the memories of his wife a bit for him. All right. Then he turned them over sometime. So he was checking that what he should sell before finally deciding to sell the heavy necklace. All right, so he selected a heavy necklace which she seemed to prefer, meaning that she liked this necklace a lot. So he thought that this necklace, since it is of a very fine workmanship, means that it was very skillfully made, so it will at least give him 6 to 7 francs. All right, so he decided to sell this necklace. Now who is going to read? I can't see anybody raising his hand. Only the people who have already read are again ready to read, and the others are sleeping. Pranjal Yadav, you can start reading again.
He put it in his pocket and started out in search of what seemed a reliable jewelry shop. At
Shop.
length,
A reliable jeweler's shop. All right. Because he wants to sell jewelry, so he wants to see that it should be a reliable shop. Yes, go ahead.
At length he found one and went in, feeling a little ashamed to expose his misery and also to offer such a worthless article for sale. Sir, said he to the merchant.
Yes.
Said he to the merchant, I would like to know what this is worth. The man took the necklace, examined it, called his clerk, and made some remarks in an undertone. He then put the ornament back on the counter and looked at it from a distance to judge the effect. Monsieur Lantin, annoyed at all these ceremonies, was on the point of saying, oh, I know, well enough, it is not worth anything. When the jeweler said, sir, that necklace is worth 12 to 15,000 francs, but I could not buy it unless you can tell me exactly where it came from.
All right, stop. So now he put the necklace in his pocket and he started out in the market to search for a reliable jewelry shop where he could sell it. All right. So when he found one such shop which he felt to be reliable, he went in ashamed to expose his misery because he came here to sell the jewelry. So naturally the shopkeeper will also know that he is in poverty and he needs some money. So he is selling off the jewelry. and that too imitation jewelry, such a worthless article for which he's not getting more than 6 to 7 francs. He's coming to sell that. So it shows that how much poverty he's going through. He is in so much poverty. So he was feeling ashamed because of it. So now he is saying to the merchant, sir, I would like to know what this is worth. So he is asking the cost of that imitation jewelry. The man took the necklace, examined it. So the shopkeeper, the jeweler, started examining the necklace, and he called his assistant and made some remarks in an undertone. Undertone means they were talking among themselves, and Mr. Lantin was not able to hear what they were talking about. Okay, then he put the ornament back on the counter, and the jewelers, they tend to judge the jewelry by taking it far, then they bring it back close to their eyes, and they are trying to see the sparkling effect of the jewelry to judge whether it is the real jewelry or whether it is fake. All right, imitation. So he was trying to judge the effect of the jewelry. Then Mr. Lantin was annoyed with all these things that they are talking among themselves, looking at it, because he was already ashamed of his situation. And after all these actions were being performed, he was getting annoyed. And he went on the verge of saying that he was just about to say that, oh, I know well enough, it is not worth anything. So he was just about to say that I know this is imitation jewelry and this is not going to worth anything. But the jeweler said, sir, that necklace is worth from 12 to 15,000 francs. So the jeweler is saying that the cost of the necklace is 12 to 15,000 francs, which is quite a lot. And Mr. Lantin was thinking that the cost would be 6 to 7 francs. But the jeweler is saying that I could not buy it unless you tell me exactly where it came from. So the jeweler is suspecting that it might be that Mr. Lantin has stolen the jewelry. So unless he tells him that from where he got that necklace, the jeweler cannot buy it. Now who wants to read it? Tanisha Patel, you want to read?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
The widower opening his eyes wide and remind.
Yes. Widower is someone whose wife has died. All right.
The widower opening his eyes wide and remind.
Yes.
Open his eyes wide and remained gaping. Not
yes.
comprehending the.
Yes, not comprehending the merchant's meaning. Yes.
You can try elsewhere and see if anyone will offer you more. I consider it worth 15,000 at the most. Come back here if you cannot do better. Monsieur Latin, beside himself with astonishment, took up the necklace and left the store. He wished time for reflection.
Yes, stop this. So now they are saying that when Mr. Lantin heard that the necklace is worth 12 to 15,000 francs, his eyes opened wide because he was so surprised that it is a imitation jewelry, and how it could cost 12 to 15,000 francs. He was not able to understand what the merchant is saying. Naturally, if you think that an article is worth 6 to 7 francs, meaning that it is totally worthless, and then some person says that it is of 12 to 15,000 francs, so he was naturally very surprised and he was not able to understand what this merchant was saying. Then he started hesitating and saying that, are you sure that it costs so much? Then the shopkeeper is replying that you can try elsewhere, meaning that you can go to some other shop and you can check there also. and I can only pay you at most 15,000 francs. That is the maximum I can pay. Otherwise, you can check somewhere else. All right. And see if you can get any deal better than that. Okay. Then it is saying that come back here if you cannot do better. So if you can't find anything better than 15,000 francs, then you can come back to me and I will buy it. So Mr. Lanton, now he is in absolute surprise or in a state of shock. He took up the necklace and left the store. And now he wished time for reflection. So it means that he wanted to reflect what just happened. He wanted to think about it, that this is a very surprising and shocking turn of events. So what is happening? So he wanted some time to think about it. All right. So we are stopping here today. All right. The next we will continue in our next class. So now if you all have any doubt,